Hi, welcome to Quarter Life Problems with Mel. Um, and welcome to my podcast where I get to talk about all the ups and downs and everything else in between that's going on in my 20s. And yeah, basically a safe space for me to have an opportunity to talk about my feelings and my emotions and everything that's kind of in my mind. And yeah, where I'll hopefully talk about kind of topics on adulthood, relationships, friendships, school, and everything else. So yeah, stick along and yeah, welcome to the second episode of this podcast. To start off, I just want to say thank you so much to those that listened to the first episode of my podcast. Um, I heard I got to see everyone's comments and text messages and feedback and encouragement, and it was very lovely and it warmed my heart. And so, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And I hope you get to stick along. And yeah, I really appreciate everything. Appreciate all the support. But yeah, so today's topic is kind of going to be on um, kind of just talking about friendships and really where I drew the line and kind of my expectations for my friendships and future friendships that are hopefully to come. Um, and yeah, maybe also to give you a little bit of an advice of kind of where to set a boundary, or more so if you feel like a friendship comes is coming to an end and you can't do anything about it, it's totally okay. So yeah, let me just pull up my notes because I was like, sometimes I feel like I ramble on and I don't get to the main point that I need to get to. But yeah, so that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So before I get into or before I deep dive into the actual topic of today, I want to do my personal check-in. So for me, my personal check-in on my podcasts will kind of be um, where I am in this week, what I've been up to, what I did today, maybe what I did yesterday. And yeah, and also just talk about how I'm doing mentally and emotionally. So just a little check in and see what I've been up to. So yeah, this week was Halloween week. So, or this past week that just passed was Halloween week. So there's a lot of festivities around Halloween. My friend, he co-hosted a Halloween birthday bash, so I went to that and that was so much fun. He did such a great job in like decorating and stuff and everything like that. He had a little like costume contest, so it was so much fun. The day of Halloween, I launched the first episode of my podcast and it went great. So yeah, thank you to those that listened. And then Halloween night, I went to West Hollywood with a couple of friends and we did some pregame um little party at my best friend's house and she hosted and it was fun. It was nice. We got to play games, we got to drink, we got to catch up and talk and do a bunch of fun stuff. So that was really fun. And yeah, it was a good night. And the day after November 1st and 2nd, for those that know, I celebrate Dia de Muertos, which is also known as Day of the Dead. And so the way we celebrate it is kind of like, I think the first is Dia de los Santos and the second is Day of the Dead. But I think in general, I just say Day of the Dead for both of them because I mean, it's kind of just in general, that's what we do. We celebrate both days. So yeah, the past week, I think it was a day or 2 days before Halloween, my mom was setting up her altar. And so yeah, it's kind of a good moment where you kind of set up your altar and have a moment of kind of reflection and just thinking about your past loved ones. And yeah, so we did that. Was able to have the opportunity to go to my cousin's house and visit some other family members. And we also had family members visit us. So it was nice to catch up and see what everyone was up to and yeah, just kind of be around family. It's something that I always tend to look forward to October, when September and October hits, because that's when I'm just like, I feel like when, for me, when Day of the Dead hits, I feel like that's when I know that, okay, fall is starting, like fall has begun. So yeah, my brother was also in town for the weekend and he came down from UCSB and yeah, so I was able to spend some time with him. It's fun to have some company at home because obviously, well, no one's really home right now, so it's kind of like, well, it was nice to have him home. I took him to the golf store because that's where he wanted to go. He's a big fan of Tyler, the Creator. And yeah, and then apart from that, we also went to watch a movie. We went to watch the Venom movie, The Last Dance. It was good. I really recommend. If you guys haven't watched it, go watch the Venom movie. It was really funny, but it was so sad at the end. I don't know. Anyways, I have a really special place in my heart for the Venom movie, which I hopefully get to tell later on. But yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of the second movie, but this third movie was really good actually. Like I actually enjoyed it. And yeah, it was funny and it was a good movie, so I recommend. Um, and yeah, and then that was pretty much my week, my weekend. Monday, Tuesday was kind of a bit of a stress ball just because it's election week. So, I am filming this today, Wednesday, the day after election day. Um, and yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a I don't know how to say, a sad morning, I guess. It's just a bit kind of like everything feels so uneasy. Everything feels kind of not real. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into the political stuff because I feel like it's been such a stressful thing to think about. And then on top of that, like there's so many people that, you didn't that you, for example, I went to school with a lot of people and I wouldn't expect them to kind of think differently or more so vote for a person that's not really protecting you in any certain way and is not qualified in any such way to take, you know, to be a president. And so, anyways, apart from that, it's been very stressful. It's kind of like, I feel like I'm so upset and mad and disappointed in a lot of things. But anyways, hopefully something, I don't know. Hopefully it just gets better. I think that's all I'm trying to say. Hopefully it just gets better at the end of the day. Yeah. So that's really kind of what it was. And yeah, I think this week mentally and emotionally how I've been feeling, I feel like I've been feeling okay. I feel like because I've had such a decent week, I mean prior to Monday, um I feel like I've suppressed all my like emotions that I was kind of feeling last week. So I feel like that kind of has gotten better and I feel kind of okay. I don't know how next week will be or whatever, but yeah, I feel like that's how I am. Also, another thing today that apart from the sad news we got from last night, um, I've been waiting for my degree to come in, like the little paper with my name and the seal on it. Yeah, so I've been waiting for that to come in, and I've been like kind of stressed because I'm scared that like what if it doesn't come in, or what if someone steals it, or I don't know, right? But it finally came in today. I was parking the car this morning, and then I saw this like big envelope, and oh my God, I started shaking, and I got kind of just I feel like there's this weight off my shoulder because I can finally say like okay, like I feel like proudly and just like wholeheartedly can just say look, I have a bachelor's in science and in this. And so it's very nice and I feel like there's just some like I just kind of can relax. I know there's a lot of things I'm still waiting for and still a lot of pieces to like fit in my life. But I feel like at least that part, I feel like I can just finally, like, I'm okay. And so I did cry a little bit earlier. When I show my mom or my dad, I feel like I'm gonna cry more. I hope not, but I don't know. It's just, it's a big milestone, right? It's a big achievement for me and also for my family. And yeah, so that's kind of my personal check-in of the week or for this podcast. And now I think I want to deep dive into the actual topic for today, which is friendships and kind of my past friendships and how has that made me the person I am today, how I found my friendship, my group of friends, and also kind of what I expect from friendships now and like from future friendships, but also kind of, you know, when and where to draw the line, and I feel like when I drew the line and how that experience kind of affected me. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And I feel like the reason why I mainly want to talk about it today is because um it's because the other day I was thinking about this friend who was my best friend at the time in ninth grade and part of middle school. I was thinking of her and she just popped up in my head. I don't know if this happens to any of you guys where sometimes you think of people out of nowhere and they, like, I don't know, they just kind of appear. Like in your head, you're just like, why did I all of a sudden think about them? So, yeah, so I thought about her and I just wanted to know kind of like, oh, I wonder how she's doing. Like that just pops up in my head out of nowhere. And it does, and I feel like I have several occasions throughout the year where that happens, where I'm like, I wonder where that person is, or I wonder what that person is doing, or what are they up to? Have they finished school, or are they working? Like things like that. And I feel like, I don't know, so a lot of times that happens to me. And so last week, like literally last week, I think a couple days before Halloween, um, she just popped up in my head, right? Let's put a name on her. We could call her Jessie, right? Um, so Jessie popped up in my head, and I was just like, oh, like, you know? And then it was funny because I told my mom, I was like, oh, like, this person popped up in my head. I wonder, like, how she is. I wonder how she's doing. And then the day of Dia de los Muertos, November 1st, she like texted me on Instagram and I was like, "Oh my God, like wait, like did I manifest this or like what?" Like no, I did not. Like I no, what? Um but it was no, in no means of like her reaching out to me to kind of get to know where I was or what I was up to or what I've been doing. It was nothing like that. It was just something like she needed help in something for school and she had thought of me to help her, but it was kind of like, okay, it wasn't expected for her to kind of text me. And so it was all just kind of like, um, it was a little spooky. So that kind of like scared me. And then, anyways, on top of that, um, that just kind of made me reflect a lot about like kind of my friendships and my friendships in the past and also in general now and kind of what I expect. So, as I grew up during my childhood in elementary, middle school, and high school, um, I had always been in different friendship groups, if that makes sense. Like I had different friend groups. I mean, I feel like when you're in elementary, I feel like you're still a kid, so you're playing with anybody and everybody, right? Um, but in elementary, I definitely had different friends group. I'm thankful that I changed friend groups because I feel like now looking back, if I would have stuck with that best friend from elementary, I don't know who I would be today. Like, would I have even continued school? Would I be a meaner person? Like things like that, right? And so then going into middle school, I created a friend group and it was me and Jessie, and then we can call this other girl named V. Um, and my other friend, we could call her mm, Michaela, right? So it was me, Jessie, Michaela, and V, and we were like a group of friends, right? Um, and I thought these were gonna be my solid group of friends going into high school. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into high school with these people, and I'm gonna have that college experience with them, and I'm gonna grow up, and we're gonna go through all of these things together, and it's gonna be such a fun ride, right? That was my illusion in my head. Um, all throughout middle school and high school and in general, when I was little, I've always been like afraid of like being alone and not having friends, and also just being called a weirdo for not having friends. Like I feel like back in I feel old saying back in my day, but I feel like when I was younger, I feel like people would really make fun of you for like saying like, "Oh, if you're alone, like you're a loner," right? And so that was one of my fears. And thankfully, I mean, I did have people that like would hang out with me, and then there were people that were just kind enough to kind of want to be friends with me. And growing up, I had always been like a very shy, quiet person, and I feel like I would like to go into more depth into that another time, just because it's something that everybody knows, and everyone always has this, always constantly reminds me, and I hate it because it just brings me back to like traumatic experiences of why I became so shy and quiet. But anyways, growing up, I had become very shy and quiet. And so I had always then this tendency or this fear to think that I was going to be alone and not have friends, right? So that was kind of my fear. And then in middle school, I had this group of friends, right? And so then once going into that transition of going into high school, I was like, these are the people I'm really going to stick with. So Michaela had to go to a different high school because she lived in a completely different area from us. So the only thing that was like in between us was our middle school. So she had to go to a completely different high school. And the high school in my area was the high school where me, Jesse, and V were going to go to, right? I really, really wanted to go to this high school because I wanted to go for my friends. I wanted because I didn't want to start all over and have to make a whole new group of friends, or I didn't want to be alone. And there was a bit of pressure from my mom to want to change schools because she didn't want me to go to this specific high school. I don't really know the reason why, but she wanted, a better high school, maybe possibly better teachers and things like that. But I ended up convincing her that I was going to go to this high school in my area, right? And so I went to this high school and I went into with Jesse and V, and I was like I was very hyped about the fact that, dude, I'm gonna do this with my best friend, like finally, oh my God. And I'm also like, as a young adult, like, I mean, as a young kid back then, I wanted to be grown so bad. Like, girl, this life is tough out here. But I wanted to go and like go to high school with them and whatnot, and it was just kind of scary too. Amidst going to school with them, I was still afraid of being alone and left out because um in my school we had different academies. So you could think about it like different colleges, right? So we had different academies, and I was in one academy and they were in another academy. And so in my academy and their academies, our classes didn't really intertwine unless I feel like if you had the same elective or the same PE class or the same health class. I feel like to me, that's when I only felt like I would possibly have the chance to like have a class with them. But overall, because we were in different academies, we didn't really have classes. So the only time to hang out was really lunchtime and break time. And so I was making friends in these new classes. I was making friends, and that's where I made the friends I have today. But I was making friends, and at the time, Jessie had a boyfriend. So she got a boyfriend. She was hanging out with her boyfriend, and I feel like that's where, like, okay, you know, our friend kind of left us for a relationship. So at the end of the day, it was me and V left, right? Um, and every time it was break time at lunchtime, I made it sure that I was gonna go and hang out with V. I was gonna go hang out with V and whatnot. Anything that's okay. I want to go hang out with my best friend, right? Um, and there came a time where I think it was like a full week where it was just like, oh, she was giving me negative remarks of like not necessarily bullying, but to me it felt like you're not a bully. Like I wouldn't call her a bully, but it was just like saying mean, hurtful things to me about like if I even had friends, if I had even made friends, do I even talk to people? It was constantly like that reminder. And when we would hang out, I feel like she didn't want to hang out. Like she felt bored. And of course, I don't want my friend to be bored with me, but also like we were friends. I mean, And when she had made other friends in her classes and I felt like she wanted to hang out with them more. And I felt like sometimes when they would come across us and see us, they would talk to her, but I wouldn't even be acknowledged. I felt kind of left out and just, put to the side. And there was once where I was with her and she left me for these group of other friends she made. But it wasn't even like, hey, do you want to come with us? Or hey, do you want to go and do this with us? It was nothing like that, right? So I ended up being alone for a good while and it hurt a little bit, right? And then there was another day instance where me and Jesse and V were finally together because I don't know what was it, right? But we were all together and I had like made a comment of like, "Oh my God, you guys are both my best friends. I can't believe I'm doing this with you guys. I'm so happy that we have stuck together, right?" And I feel like that's where I jinxed it. I probably jinxed it right there. Um, and yeah, there was this moment that came where V just kind of we were waiting after school. Um I was waiting for my dad, and I think she was waiting for someone else too. And so she had said like, "Oh, you don't have any friends. You really don't have any friends, huh?" But it wasn't even like, I don't know, but to me it was very mean and it hurt me. And she's like, you don't have any friends, huh? Like you're like, do you even talk to people?" And to me, that's kind of what I can replay in my head, because I feel like after that moment, I kind of just blinked out and I forgot what she specifically said, but she said something along those lines, right? And it hurt me so much. And I looked at her and I was like, no, I don't have that many friends. And I got up and I just left. I was tired of the fact that my so-called best friend was telling me these mean, hurtful things, because to me they were mean and hurtful. And maybe to her, she didn't reflect back and maybe she didn't think twice of like, oh, wait, how can this affect a person, right? So to me, that hurt me. And it, I just didn't want to be friends with her anymore. I didn't even want to communicate to her about like, hey, you hurt me in this sense and whatnot. And after that, I acted like we were never, ever, ever friends again. And it was just weird. To me, it was just crazy and mind blowing to know that I was like, damn, I wanted to go to school with you guys, for you guys, to this school specifically, and this is kind of how it all ended. But on a good note, I mean, that gave me the opportunity to make new friends. I was in between friends for a good while in ninth grade, but then, like by the ending of ninth grade, I fully found my group of friends. I met my best friend. Obviously these are my actual best friends' names, but I'm gonna name them because I feel like you guys probably notice them and see them on my social media. But this is where I met my best friend Nancy, and I was able to talk to her, and we had so many things in common. I met my best friend Dylan, and I met my best friend Natalie, and we all became a fun group. And I was welcomed into their group like it was nothing. And I feel like nowadays it feels like, wow, like I feel like I've known them for forever. And I feel like part of the reason why I've been reflecting so much on my friendships and kind of my experiences with friendships is because now around this time it makes it like 8 years that I've known them. Like it makes it 8 long years that I've known them. And these are the people that I'm so happy to come to every time I come back. And every time I came back from Davis, I was so happy and excited to like see my best friends, right? And so these are truly the my best friends that like I love and I adore and I cherish so much, and I have such a deep appreciation for them because they never ever made me feel weird about anything, or like about, oh my God, or like about myself or anything like that. Um So yeah, really those two people were kind of like the kind of just what was the line for me, where it was just like, no, I don't want someone who leaves me because they think a relationship is more important. And I also didn't want someone who was going to constantly say hurtful things without ever like noticing how that would affect the person. And hey, you could call me dramatic, or at the time you could have called me dramatic. But those things hurt. Like it hurts when you say those things to friends, because I don't know. And so a lot of that happened in high school. And now you're probably thinking, well, how does that relate now to your quarter life problem? And so while it's not necessarily a problem, it's more so now the way I reflect and looked at friendships is more so, okay, like I expect someone, and I guess so, this is kind of diving into now my expectations for my friendships is kind of like to not really be mean, and to kind of, you know, reflect. And also, while I know a lot of us can sometimes just say things because we're mad or we're upset, or but it's really kind of reflecting and thinking back and taking a step back and understanding how certain words can affect a certain person. And yeah, and I feel like I'm very grateful that my friends kind of accepted me for who I was and were willing to be best friends with me. And so without them, I mean, I don't know where I would be today, honestly. But yeah, these are the people that kind of have uplifted me and supported me for in anything. Supported me in studying abroad and going to college 6 hours away. They supported me in creating this podcast, and they've supported me in everything. And I want to say I'm always, always, always here for them too if they ever need, a helping hand or someone to talk to or someone to cry to. And yeah, but now I feel like as I grew away and I like matured and understood kind of how that relationship, that friendship affected me, I understood that me as a person, I'm not very much the person that if they're not willing to fight for, or if they already made me tired of kind of the way they are and the way they're hurting me, I'm not gonna pick a fight and I'm not gonna want to communicate because I feel like a person should kind of know and have that chance that like once a person steps away to kind of reflect like, hey, how did this go down, and although maybe I don't think these two girls ever reflected on how our friendships or our group of I mean how our group kind of just ended up, um I mean, I feel like in general for people, I feel like I would suggest that like if you are going through something or with your friends, or if you feel like someone has been a little distant, or someone kind of just felt hurt out of nowhere, to kind of listen to them, but also take a step back and take accountability of maybe what you probably said or what you probably did and talk to that person. I know I did not talk to that person afterwards, because for me, I think I was just better off. But now I feel like that's something like if that's going on in my friendships, in my group of friends, and then this is not only my only group of friends here in LA, but in my group of friends anywhere, right? From school, from Davis, it's like to really like, okay, if you cherish a friendship, kind of take accountability and talk to that person. Um, and also have that chance to like hear them out, right? And so in my friendships, that's what how I hope and I'm trying to do a lot of the time, and I'm trying to learn how everyone's feelings are, kind of, to what extent I can be mean. I feel like in friendships, you can be mean. I mean, if the person knows you well enough, I get it, We know each other's true colors and whatnot. But you also have to be really careful of like how maybe at a certain time that thing that you maybe that one small little thing that you said, maybe you thought that they would have taken it as a joke, or maybe you thought that, oh, they were going to take it lightly. Kind of really just reflect and maybe like, okay, understand, maybe you know what, that wasn't the nicest thing to say. And so that's kind of how I take it on relationships now. And I hope that like also my friends have that chance to kind of talk to me about certain things that maybe when I've hurt their feelings, or in general if I did something or said something. And I also hope that they expect the same thing from me back, to be able to communicate what hurt me, and have that chance to communicate rather than just lash out and fight. Um and so that's kind of what I also expect from friendships. And then I just expect people to be kind. I feel like I never got bullied in high school or in school in general, but there were very, very mean people. And so I feel like that's kind of why I am the way I am, like why I'm so shy and quiet and not wanting to talk to a lot of people, or why I feel like I'm very, like, I wouldn't say necessarily picky. I'm not necessarily picky in the friends or in the people I want to talk to and the people I want to become friends with, but I'm very careful at choosing at who I want to stick with me in my life. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I want someone who's going to support me and not judge me and not make fun of me for this, right? And I also want someone who's going to support me and motivate me in the things that I want to do in life. For example, possibly going back to school or, you know, in career wise or hobbies and things I want like that. I want someone who's going to support me and just uplift me through every step of the way. And so I feel like also now in college and in general now, I don't really expect to create more friends. I'm very content with the group of people that I have around me, both here in LA and the group of people that I've met in Davis. And I'm very, very content and very grateful because they make me feel safe and they make me feel seen and they don't make me feel bad for who I am or in general, yeah. So I'm very like grateful for that. And in general, I just sometimes I do question my friendships a lot because I mean, I feel like in it, like any other person, you kind of question your relationships. Not question, but more so you're kind of like, you know, analyzing and reflecting, like, and it's also okay. It's also okay to outgrow friendships. It's totally understandable. Sometimes some person may not be the same for you, or may not, have the same morals and ethics and values for you. But if that's totally a deal breaker and for you, you're just like, no, like, I don't want this anymore, totally let it go. You don't, in order to protect your peace, it's totally fine to let people go. And if you've outgrown them or you just don't have the same things in common, it's totally okay to let them go. But also, again, if someone is worth fighting for, fight for them. And if someone is not, it's just don't even try. Don't hurt yourself even more by trying for someone that's not really gonna try or give the same effort. And draw the line, truly, truly draw the line at some point where you're just like, I can't tolerate this. I don't want this from you. Um, and I'm just gonna let you know. And if you don't understand, totally fine, but I'm just not gonna be in your life and you're not gonna be in mine. Um, and you could communicate that to that person. But also if you don't want to, you don't have to, and you don't have to put that energy. I know that for me, a lot of people might say, well, why didn't you ever talk to them or why didn't you ever just let them know? Look, again, I was a very shy and quiet and person, and I've always been scared of confrontation. But back then, I was really, really scared of confrontation in general, and I didn't want to tell my friend, "Hey, these words hurt me." And yeah, sometimes I do end up thinking about them. I do end up thinking about like, I wonder where they are, you know? But that's why I drew the line. And again, I haven't seen them in a long time. And to think that we live in literally the exact same area, we probably go to the same grocery stores, we probably go to the same gas stations, we probably go to the same liquor stores, things like that. But I have not seen them. And I take that as my way of the universe's way of saying, like, hey, that relationship, that friendship was just not meant to be. It was probably a lesson to learn, or it was probably just a way for me to learn more about myself and what I want and kind of my expectations and my boundaries. And so, yeah, really, when I feel like for me, when someone just hurts me by saying things kind of about me, and they don't like something about me, or they think that I'm lame or such a loser in that certain way, it does hurt. Things do build up. For me, I let things build up. I let it build up and I let it build up constantly until I fully just explode and let it go. And that's just how I am. I know a lot of people say you shouldn't let it build up, but I'm the type of person that I'm like, I'm gonna give you so many chances. And if you don't see it yourself, if you don't get it or whatever, I'm just gonna be gone by the next day. And so that was kind of I've been like that for a long time and I still am that way. But in my relationships and my friendships now, I try not to be like that. I try to make sure like, hey, this hurt me or hey, this bothered me or this made me feel bad or things like that. And I don't do it all the time, but hopefully if my friends are watching this, yes, I do have things built up, but I don't say it. And if I don't say it, it's probably because it hasn't hurt me to an extent yet. But um, I do let things go once I know that maybe a person has changed or has become better. But if a person doesn't and just constantly keeps going at me like that, I just I let it build up and then I let it go and I leave. And I leave, I run away. So yeah, that was really kind of what happened in my experience. And yeah, I had a lot of mean friends. Like, I had a mean friend in elementary, in middle school. People were mean as well. Um, there's this girl that I got in a fight with, and we never became friends with any ever again. And so from then on, I think that also traumatized me to never even want to speak up again. And I maybe that was also my fault because I projected. But anyways, a lot of those friendships kind of made me who I am today and how I see friendships. And I'm very grateful for the people that I've met in college. I've been very content with every friendship, and no friendship has hurt me. Everyone's so kind, and it's nice to know people from different areas as well. It's kind of like, oh, like you didn't grow up in LA, you grew up in the Valley, or you grew up in NorCal and things like that, and kind of see their perspectives on how their life was and how their childhood was. And so, yeah, really, that's kind of where I drew the line. And so, my expectations of friendships and just, I just really expect people to be kind. To also, now I fully understand kind of how communication is key. And in my friendships, I know my friendships, all the people that I know I'm friends with, they are all worth fighting for, and I love them, each and every one of them, and I support them all the way, just like some of you guys support me. And yeah, also, if there's a deal breaker, there's a deal breaker, and it's okay to leave a friend. It's okay to outgrow people. And yeah, again, I outgrew these two girls, and I am thankful that it happened. I'm thankful that of the way it happened, and because without that kind of impactful moment, I wouldn't know what I would want in friendships, and also I wouldn't be friends with the people I am friends today. And so, yeah, my friendships really, really do impact me a lot because they're the people that I think about all the time. They're the people that motivate me, and I look forward to like seeing and talking with, and yeah. But yeah, so that was really all I kind of have for today and all I reflected on this past week, and it wasn't really necessarily a problem, but it was just funny how it came up because obviously who would have thought this girl would have, reached out to me. But that was just funny, and so that had me like kind of reflecting, and then reflecting on the fact that, me and my friends have been friends together now for 8 years, and it's just, and I hope for many more years to come. But yeah, it was a nice reflection, and it's not such a big problem or deal right now because I love all my friends. But yeah, I hope to just continue um, following these, I guess, expectations, and have these expectations, and then also just I hope for myself to continue to try to be kind, and also just make sure that I'm careful of what I say around people because words can affect people. And so yeah, and also again, overall, if I would tell you something is like if someone is worth fighting for, fight for them, and if not, don't put in that energy. Just it's okay. It's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to leave people behind. Just you do you, and you do you for the better. And so yeah, that was pretty much it. I hope that, you know, we can all be, we can all have wonderful friends in our lives. And even if it's just one friend, that is totally okay? And if you're alone, it's okay. It's totally okay. I've been there, and it's gonna get better. And you're gonna find your person, your best friend. You're gonna find it. I mean, yeah. And that was pretty much it. That's all I really have for today's podcast episode. It was kind of pretty short, but I didn't really want to get too deep because I will get emotional. But yeah, that was really it. I hope you had a wonderful week, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope your day is just better than mine. We will all get better. We will all get through this, and it'll be okay. Um, and yeah, thank you for listening to the second episode of this podcast. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next week on Thursday. I will be posting now for sure on Thursdays. Um, And yeah, just look out for that on Spotify and on YouTube. But yeah, thank you for listening, and if also if my best friends are listening, no, you did not see me like almost tear up. But thank you for listening, and yeah, thank you for the support, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Leave any comments down below on YouTube. You can also leave comments on Spotify. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Quarter Life Problems with Mel. And yeah, just leave any feedback or reach out to me if you feel like talking about something. And yeah, also, yeah, that's really it. I don't know specific what I'm going to be talking about next week, but I'll let you guys know. And other than that, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next week. And yeah, thank you for listening to Quarter Life Problems with Mel. Bye.